Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about astrology and the chart of Chanel Farrah Wolfel. And I just wanted to say, very belated, as far as an astrology video tribute to her. Very belated. I do apologize for that. I made a video in which I did like a eulogy and tribute to Chanel on, on my another YouTube channel when it was nothing connected with her astrology chart. But I'm going to be talking about, some natal placements and transits that may be tied into her life and death. Chanel Farrah Wolfel was born on September 21st, 1995. She passed away on April 21st, 2022. Sadly, she died and passed away due to, I believe it was like an accidental fentanyl assimilation. And I'll say it again. I said it in another video, but I'm going to say it again anyway. My prayers and condolences still continue to go out to Chanel's family and close friends. She was a very, kind, benevolent, vivacious soul, had a very good heart. I regret not giving her more of a chance and an opportunity as a friend, which could have ultimately evolved into something stronger. I feel, that I did, reject her to some degree, and I feel terrible about this. This will always, hurt me, to some degree. I felt like maybe I could have intervened more in a positive way for her. Maybe things could have been different at this time. Maybe she would have been around still. But anyway, I'm going to talk about, talk a little bit about her natal chart first, and then talk about some, transits that may have been tied into her passing. Now, natal chart. Chanel was a Virgo sun, Leo moon, and Gemini ascendant. She was, the sun in Virgo, naturally, basic fundamental character, likely very analytical, prudent, service-oriented, helpful, industrious, hardworking, scrupulous type of person, very ethical. I would say, the moon, being in Leo, that's that unconscious side, which is, a strong contrast from her sun in reticent, shy Virgo. The moon, in Leo being a little bit more, extroverted, gregarious, on an unconscious level. May even want to give that, grandeur impression from time to time. But keep in mind that the moon is the unconscious side. She was somebody, according to, the, obituary, the write-up on legacy, .com. I believe it was something about, she liked, she was creative, she liked comedy, and also, and cats as well, I believe. And, I feel a lot of that's attributed to the, the Leo moon and the emotional needs. And, having a Gemini rising, very, outwardly very vivacious, animated, versatile, multifaceted, somebody that was a very strong, people person. And I'm sure she was someone that was very dexterous, as well, and quick-witted. And the thing about, sadly, is that some of you may know, or you believe this, or, I believe in this, that, people that often, that have Gemini or Virgo prominent in their chart, and when I say prominent, I'm referring to the sun, moon, and ascendant, often, they could pass on, early in our life, dissipate out of our lives. They pass on earlier often. And Chanel was only like 26 when she passed away. And again, she was a Virgo sun and Gemini rising. The theory behind that is connected like with the wind, that Mercury rules Gemini and Virgo, and Mercury is associated with the wind. These people often, sadly, come and go like the wind in our life. Some of you may remember Patrick Swayze. He was like 57 when he passed away. He succumbed to pancreatic Cancer, I believe. He was only like, again, 57 years old, Virgo rising. Tupac Shakur was only like 26 years old, Sun in Gemini. I believe Notorious B.I.G. or whatever, something similar to that. He was a Gemini Sun, and I believe Virgo Moon, and he was only, relatively young. I think he was under 30 when he passed away. So it just goes on. I mean, Buddy Holly, who died in that, that helicopter crash at only like 22 years old, was a Virgo Sun and Gemini Moon. It just goes on and on. I've seen a lot of evidence in this to, for me to, not believe, the opposite of this. I do believe there is a correlation, with those signs in the early passing, sadly. Now, another thing, some other things I want to talk about, just looking at her, chart in general, pictorial look, I'm seeing that there's 4 planets on the top half of the chart, and there's 6 on the bottom, so there's a fairly good balance between introversion and extroversion. A little bit more introverted, I would say, with 6 planets on the bottom half and 4 on the top. Now, she also has a strong preponderance of planets that are on the right side of the chart. 9 of the 10 planets fall on the right side of the chart, and that consists, of course, of houses 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And that indicates, somebody that's more about, collaborating with others on projects and endeavors, a little bit more dependent as opposed to being independent. But somebody that's more about doing things others as opposed to by herself. And it doesn't mean she wasn't capable of doing anything on her own, but she might have had more of a preference to do things with others as opposed to on her own. And she doesn't have any there's no planets in that first quadrant. First quadrant in astrology consists of houses 1, 2, and 3. So I don't think anybody can really accuse her of being overly self-centered or egocentric. She was somebody that struck me that was there often for other people, and sometimes maybe it was to her own detriment to some degree. She had most of her she's got majority of the planets are in the second quadrant, which consists of houses 4, 5, and 6. There are 6 planets in that quadrant, so there shows more of an emphasis on the home, the family life. I don't think she had children, but if she did, I'm sure she would have worked laboriously to take care of them. So it's really about the home, and which home and family, which is the 4th house, people you're close to home with. 5th house, a lot about love and hobbies and enjoyment. And then you have the 6th house, which is really a lot about work, employment, service rendered. Even an aunt or uncle could be connected with as well. So I'm going to talk about some other other things in her natal chart. Well, the thing I notice looking at her chart, another positive thing is that she had her Mars in Stignity in Scorpio in the 6th house, and Mars in Scorpio can actually be very capable of doing things that may seem insurmountable to others, things that may seem unattainable. She had it intercepted in the 6th house, and interceptions occur when you have something, when a sign or planet is completely enclosed in the house. Okay, so she had Libra on the cusp of the 6th house and Sagittarius on the cusp of the 7th. This is using the Placidus house system. So the entire zodiac sign of Scorpio falls in the 6th house, so that is intercepted. So it might have been a little bit harder in order to attain, access that energy. I mean, she had having the 6th house intercepted, of course the 12th house is intercepted, that axis. So I think, unfortunately, having those houses intercepted, Taurus intercepted in the 12th house, could indicate this certain difficulty finding peace and stability in one's private life. And then having Scorpio intersected in the 6th house may indicate certain difficulty, I would say, in just simply gaining power and control in one's daily routine, or even trying to make some transformation in connection with the daily routine or one's health life, diet, whatever, can be connected with the 6th house. So, and the thing really is that, and also, interceptions can be about imbalances too. Could be either the fact that the 12th and the 6th house were intercepted can suggest there may have either been too much emphasis on one's private life, solitude, and seclusion, which is the 12th house, and not enough on one's work and employment, which is the 6th house, or the other way around. Now, another thing I want to talk about is that her chart ruler, which is Mercury, because she had Gemini rising, the chart ruler Mercury falls in the 6th house. So it shows that a lot of that Gemini rising energy likely was often injected into matters pertaining, to work, service, health, and employment. And Mercury being in Libra, often in a very, balanced way as well. She had Mercury, conjunct the North Node, so really it's sad, because if she had lived, I'm thinking she may have had really immense contributions to writings and communications. And having this in Libra, it could be something over, beauty, or writings about beauty, modeling, romance, art, the law, scales, maybe just balance of justice, fashion design, anything that could be, Libra related. So especially, she also sadly had her sun, conjunct Chiron, and that could indicate more, physical related wounds and suffering during one's life, than the average person. She also had her sun close to 29 degrees. And 29 degrees, in astrology, as many of you may know, is that anaretic crisis degree. And being in the sign of health, which is Virgo. And I don't know this or even remember this, but given that the sun is in Virgo, I do wonder if she may have had, some issue, abdominal issues, or something with the intestines, or spleen, or pancreas even. In general, something that would be Virgo, related, and maybe there was more worry and nervousness connected, which might have, exacerbated, any, physical related issues. It could have been, and having, the sun at near 29 degrees could indicate that the life may have been crisis ridden to some, degree. And then having it conjunct Chiron certainly, obviously would not help matters. And it's in the 5th house, so it tells me this might have strongly impacted, her fun, amusement, and enjoyment more so than other matters in her life. Now, another thing, I'm going to go to some transits now, that took place, at the time, of her passing. Now, the thing was, she had a number of transits, sadly, that were in the 12th house, her 12th house of endings. She had the sun, which rules life, in the 12th house of endings. And, the North Node was in there. Uranus and Mercury were all in that, 12th house. Mercury is connected with breathing. And then the sun, sadly, it is also not far from her South Node at the time. So when you have the sun, fairly close proximity to the South Node, that could be the South Node is what we're going away from. The sun is about life, so that could be an indicator of going away, sadly, from one's life. And the thing, too, is, and you had also transit Chiron was not far from her 12th house cusp. And, again, Chiron can be about physical, emotional wounds, being an aggressive Aries and a little bit impulsive maybe, near that 12th house of endings, and also which is associated, with, of course, with drugs as well and addiction. But my understanding is that Chanel had actually was making tremendous progress, and that was she had been sober for a very extensive time, but she just had that one critical mistake in like a year time span. So um, it's just it's a terrible thing, and kudos to her that she did make concerted effort to do what she had to do. And sadly, this one flaw, this one mishap, really obviously was something that was perilous. And now another thing that Chanel had as far as transits at the time of her passing, transit Pluto was, I believe, a loose conjunction to her natal Uranus, and that could suggest a death that may come in a very unexpected manner. Uranus is friends. It might have been with a friend that had been by her, near her at this point in time. And the thing that I wanted to add on this, I don't have really too much more to say about her her chart, whether it's natal placements of transits. But the thing that's really what hurts me to this day, I spoke about at the beginning of the video, but what I want to add is that she had actually asked me back, this is back in 2020, we're talking about 4 years ago, and she asked me if I saw anything in her chart, transit of as far as possible death, and I told her that you just need to be careful. Basically, that's what I had stated, and it's very haunting, because I remember her face very vividly, and seeing this when she asked me that question, and it might have something to do why her passing hurt me more than many others, even more so than some family members, and I wish I could have been there more for her, and I'm sure there's other people that as well. But it's important to remember, I guess you could say, what she accomplished and what she achieved during her life, and understand she was just very very nice person with a lot of positive attributes. Again, as I stated before, she struck me someone that had a lot of goodwill, was compassionate, benevolent, was the kind of person that would maybe help others out before her own self, where others' interests may often take precedence over her own. She had Neptune conjunct Uranus in her natal chart, which tells me that there might have been a lot of sacrificing for her friends. And being in Capricorn, it may have been friends that were older often than she was. So now, the only other thing I want to add as far as a transit goes, I do see now that maybe it was in loose opposition. It was at least a loose opposition from transit Jupiter, making the opposition to her natal Sun in Virgo. And Jupiter in Pisces can be about the enlargement of drugs in some cases, and then opposing the Sun, where the Sun is about the life. And you can understand how maybe this sadly panned out for Chanel at this time. And again, just very important to remember the positive in her, and the people that see this that were close friends, family members, just remember to try to accentuate the good in her and what she was doing, the progress she had made in her life. And this was somebody that was struck me as a very lively and vivacious soul that would do a lot for other people, and I'd say ahead of her own interests. Anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment. Until next time, Edwin Learnard saying, stay well.